everyone, Kitana here, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome to my Astro community.
Business change, I like I ain't all this. Get out my main focus.
And in today's video, I'm going to be talking about physical attractiveness and astrology. And even more specifically, I'm going to be talking about what makes somebody physically attractive based on their birth chart, and more importantly, how those placements influence their physical appearance. Now, of course, this topic is pretty popular on my channel. I do have a physical traits video up already if you have not seen it. And then I made another video talking about physical attractiveness and your birth chart. And today's video is going to be kind of like a part 2 to that. In that video, I only explained certain planets, certain placements, and I didn't include everything. So in this video, I'm going to include the other half that I did not speak of in that video. And if you guys are new and have not watched any of those videos or don't know what I'm talking about, you guys should watch those ones first if you haven't already. Now, firstly, I must say that beauty is such a subjective thing. It depends on who you're asking. Anyone could be beautiful, but in today's video, I'm going to be going off of what research says is most attractive in people, and then kind of correlating that to astrology. So with that being said, studies say that we can usually kind of tell somebody's attractiveness by symmetry, by magnetism, also by their level of femininity or masculinity, and also by youthfulness. This video, I really want to set the disclaimer that this really has to do with your planetary influences. So I'm really going to be judging this mostly based on your dominant planets. I'm going to be talking about each planet, of course. And in this video, and specifically, I really want to specify that this can be based on your dominant planets. And if you guys don't know your dominant planet yet, I'm going to put a screen recording on the screen of how to figure it out. It's really simple and easy. All you have to do is go to astro.com, go to the chart setup, go to extended chart selection, I think. And then you want to go to the 4th tab. It'll all be on the screen. So, and then you want to go to the last option on that tab, and then it's going to show you your planetary dominance if you just scroll to the bottom of the sheet. And that's going to be so key for this video as well as the other video I filmed like this, because even if you don't have certain placements that I mentioned in this video, if you have a dominant planet, or if you have the planet that I'm talking about as your dominant planet, then this information still applies to you and your physical appearance. Okay, so let's start by talking about the sun, aka Leo energy. So when it comes to Leo energy, sun energy, and physical appearance, of course we can look at the first house. The first house directly affects our outward appearance to other people. And when you have the sun influencing your ascendant, either by if you are a Leo rising, if you have sun in the first house, if you have sun aspecting your ascendant, or if you are a sun dominant person, then you may benefit from the physical attractiveness that the sun will give you. So with sun dominant people or Leo energy people, even Leo suns or Leo moons, it gives you a very vibrant appearance. If we think about the sun literally, it's a very vibrant star, it's a vibrant planetary body. So how that manifests in the physical realm is that it gives someone a very youthful appearance potentially. It might just give them a very an inner warmth about them, something about their face, their mannerisms, how they act, how they speak. It's almost exaggerated. It's like we almost can't help but notice sun dominant people because they're so magnetic. And just to touch on the physical face shape of sun dominant people, Leo risings, you usually have very flared out eyes. Now, I would say mostly for Leo people, they have very almost like cat-like eyes. It might give you kind of slanted eyes upward. And also you might have very narrow eyes. So right away you have a very kind of intense stare. I say Leo people usually have really beautiful eyes just because they are very cat-like. And then another thing about sun dominant people, Leo people, is that they might have a very broad face. They also might have very high cheekbones. If you think about their eyes, they might be a little bit more upward or cat-like, so their cheekbones might be a little bit higher as well. They might have a very broad face, as I mentioned, but even if they have a broad face, they might have a very structured face. They might have very structured jawline, and overall their face is very prominent. It's not necessarily like it wouldn't be like a Cancer or like moon dominant person face where it's like more full. I feel like a sun dominant face is very structured, very sharp, very prominent. And overall, you just kind of have like this smoldering kind of magnetic energy about you. I feel like sun dominant people, you notice their energy before you even see their face. Before you even talk to them, you can just sense this very magnetic energy about them. And of course, they have a beautiful face as well because they have their cat-like eyes, high cheekbones, potentially even strong bone structure or a broader face. Overall, I will say sun dominant people, Leo people, are like the definition of magnetic. I know I talked a lot about magnetism in the last video, and that can manifest in many ways with different planets, but with sun people, they are just literally the most magnetic people ever. And you can't help but feel very happy around them, very jovial around them. And of course, they are very physically attractive too, and usually they can dress too. I noticed that about Leos. They can usually dress really well. So yeah, that's sun dominant people. Okay, so let's talk about Mercury dominance. So with Mercury dominance, this can apply to Virgos or Geminis. I'm going to talk about each sign separately though, but either way, if you have Mercury as your dominant planet, you might have a lot of Gemini placements, Virgo placements, and this can really specifically apply to you if you have Mercury in the first house, Gemini rising, Virgo rising, Mercury trining or sextile or conjunction your ascendant, or potentially Virgo sun, Gemini sun. Either way, if you have a lot of Mercury in your chart, this information does apply to you. So with someone who is Mercury dominant, I will say this gives someone quite a bit of youthfulness. Usually the influence of Mercury makes somebody very petite. It makes someone very dainty looking. So if you're Virgo, Gemini placements, especially with Virgo placements more often, I'd say, you definitely are very petite. And then because you are so petite, it kind of gives you this youthful look about yourself. And of course, as I mentioned in the beginning, studies say that youth does contribute to physical attractiveness quite a bit. And with Mercury dominant people, Geminis, Virgos, Mercury placements, you might have a very slender body naturally. You might be naturally very fit looking. Even if you don't really try too hard to be skinny, maybe you're naturally very slender. Either way, you're just a very small kind of person or a very slender kind of person. And this really contributes to that youthful aspect about you. And then in terms of like your face and how like your features are set up, I mentioned this in my physical appearance video, but usually Mercury dominant people have a very pouty kind of mouth. You might have almond shaped eyes, maybe thin eyebrows. Your eyes can also be kind of deep set as well. Maybe you have like a lot of eyeshadow space or a very defined crease. You also might have a very short or square chin. With Geminis, I notice especially they might have a cleft chin. Mercury dominant people also have high cheekbones. They also have the apples of their cheeks are very defined. And overall, your face shape kind of takes on more of like an apple shape or square shape. It's not really like a long face. It's more of like a kind of shrunken in sort of like pouty face, if that makes sense. Like it's not like sun dominant people where their face is more broad and their features are more spread out. With Mercury dominant people, you have more of a scrunched in face. And so what I really want to exaggerate about physical attractiveness and Mercury dominance is that it makes somebody very cutesy or very dainty looking, or overall exude this sense of innocence. And I will just talk about Virgos for a second, or Virgo placements. Virgo placements, especially Virgo women, look very like almost like wholesome or very childlike, or something about them looks very youthful and very, very innocent. And it's kind of ironic because Mercury dominant people usually aren't as innocent as they seem, especially like Virgo women. They look very innocent and kind of like, you know, very feminine looking. That's another thing I will add, is that they look very, very feminine. But they aren't necessarily always as innocent as they seem, which is kind of funny. But overall, they give a very innocent kind of look. And this really plays into their attractiveness because it makes them kind of seductive to other people. People are very intrigued about them because they just have this innocent kind of wholesome look about them. And I will say with Virgos especially that they might have a very perfect, like, I don't know, I feel like with Virgos, people think they look perfect because they're so detail oriented and they're so good at like, I don't know, they might be really great at doing their makeup or clothes. Either way, Virgo women, I notice, are very, very attractive because they have this almost perfect look about them. Something about them looks so, what's the word? It's like very polished or curated. They just look very, very put together, very innocent, very youthful, very feminine. They just look very beautiful in that sense. And then with Geminis, I feel like it manifests a little bit differently. I think they have more of a playful look about them. I think Geminis too, they look a lot younger than they are oftentimes, especially like Gemini risings. So they do have that advantage of youth working for them. When it comes to like style and like put togetherness, I don't think they share that trait with Virgos as much, but they just have this playful, very vibrant energy. Almost kind of like Leos, where it's like they have a lot of magnetism because they're so happy or jovial or very sociable. They kind of have this very attractive, playful energy about them. And also they look very youthful. They might look very feminine. They might have a very nice facial structure as well. Okay, so let's talk about Jupiter dominance, aka Sagittarius energy. So with Jupiter dominance, if Jupiter is your dominant planet, or you have a Sag sun, potentially a Sag rising, or Jupiter in the first house, this information will apply to you. Also, this information applies if you have Jupiter aspecting your ascendant by trine, sextile, or conjunction. So with Jupiter dominance, now I mentioned this in my physical appearance video, but Jupiter does give someone quite a curvy body. If you're not curvy, or if you're a guy watching this, you might be curvy too, but it gives somebody a very nice body. Maybe you're very athletic, maybe you're very curvy, maybe you have a big butt or big thighs, and obviously your body shape does contribute to your physical attractiveness. So of course you might have a nice body, but let's talk about your face really quickly. So with Jupiter dominant people, now this is one of the most interesting things I was researching when I was like looking up Jupiter dominance and Sagittarius energy, is that I feel like Sagittarius people or Jupiter dominant people have very magnetic eyes. They have very flared out eyes, almost very like flirty eyes. I don't know, something about their eye shape is very prominent. With Jupiter dominance, Sagittarius dominance, you usually have something on your face that is very noticeable, very prominent. You might have a very big smile, or maybe even like a big nose. You might have very big eyes. But either way, I notice Jupiter dominance, they have very beautiful eyes, very attractive eyes, magnetic eyes, very just vibrant eyes. And I will say Jupiter dominance sometimes gives people dimples or a very nice smile. I would say that's very attractive about Sagittarius, is that they usually have a very nice smile, dimples, very flirty, big eyes. And then I just kind of touched on this, but usually something on your face is very pronounced. You might have very thick lips, bigger lips. You might have a very pronounced Cupid's bow, sort of like Rihanna's. Rihanna's Cupid's bow is kind of like very pronounced. You might have a very defined nose bridge. You might have a square shaped nose. But overall, I would say the very attractive thing about a Jupiter dominant person's face is their eye shape, potentially even their lips too. They might have very full lips, a nice smile, maybe even dimples too. And I will say Sagittarius placements and Jupiter energy in general is very magnetic too. I don't know what, like I have a theory that Sagittarius people are very magnetic and kind of almost seductive too, because a lot of them usually have like Scorpio influence or Pluto influence, sometimes even like Saturn influence, and I feel like that contributes a lot to their personal magnetism and their sense of sex appeal and seduction. I will say that Jupiter dominant people are very sexually appealing in that sense, and I will say the most prominent physical attractiveness features about them is their eyes, potentially their lips, their face shape, and potentially even their body shape too. Okay, so let's talk about Saturn dominance, aka Aquarius energy or Capricorn energy. Now, if you guys don't already know, Saturn rules both Aquarius and Capricorn. Now, physical attractiveness manifests two different ways between those two signs, so I'm going to explain each sign, of course, but Saturn does have influence on both Capricorns and Aquarius people. So, of course, this information applies to you if you have Saturn in the first house, if you have an Aquarius rising, Aquarius sun, Capricorn rising. Either way, if Saturn is your dominant planet, this information can apply to you, and of course, if Saturn is aspecting your ascendant sign by trine, sextile, or conjunction. So when it comes to Saturn, generally it gives someone very, very defined bone structure. And of course, when it comes to beauty and beauty standards, if someone has a very sharp jawline, if they have very carved out cheeks or a slim nose, it can appear very attractive to other people. And with someone who is Saturn dominant, they do have that gift. They might have very nice teeth. Overall, Saturn does rule bones. So your teeth are bones, your face, it has bone structure. So either either way, I would say Capricorn, mostly Capricorn and Aquarius too, have very stunning bone structure. And Saturn also gives somebody a very symmetrical face. I know that Libras always get the credit for symmetry, right? And Taurus get the credit for symmetry, but Capricorns, Aquarius, Saturn dominant people also have quite a bit of symmetry in their face. And Saturn dominance too also gives someone a very slender body potentially. I feel like with a Saturn dominant person, they have a very carved out face, and they might also naturally have a very carved out body. I know I mentioned with like Aquarius people, they tend to be kind of tall and lanky, and Capricorns can be kind of lanky as well. It depends on the influence though, but either way, they might have a very just slender body because their face kind of looks like that too. Now when it comes to your actual face structure, like I said, it is very refined, it's very carved out. It's not a very like soft, doughy kind of chubby cheek type of face. It's almost opposite. It's very carved out. So you might have a very square jawline, a very sharp jawline. You might have higher cheekbones, maybe even a very skinny nose. You can also have maybe medium to large eyes, but either way, they're kind of wide set. Your face isn't too scrunched in. It's kind of more spread out, if that makes sense. And you might have a larger forehead. Either way, you might also have RBF, so you might like have a very serious, very stern looking face. Whenever I think of Saturn dominant people, especially women, I think of like that supermodel smize, that supermodel face disposition where it's just very unbothered, very serious looking. It's not very innocent looking like Mercury dominant people. It's very serious, very stern, very sharp. So let's talk about each sign really quickly. So I'm going to talk about Capricorns first. So of course, Capricorns, I mentioned this in my physical traits video. You might have very nice teeth, very nice bone structure, a very skinny nose, nice cheekbones. Either way, your face is very carved out, very defined. Now, what I will really emphasize with Saturn dominance, especially Capricorns, is that you guys tend to be late bloomers. So I feel like when a Saturn person, maybe Capricorn placements are like younger, maybe like they're 15, 16, maybe they're not as beautiful or they don't feel as beautiful necessarily. But of course, as they get older, they might look more beautiful. Their features might define themselves a little bit more. Even, I feel like you could be like a late bloomer into your 20s if you're a Capricorn. And still not feel that beautiful, but as you get older, you definitely get more beautiful, and as you get older, you get more youthful looking. Capricorns tend to age backwards. So if you're watching this right now and you feel like you're not benefiting from Saturn at all, you're definitely going to benefit from Saturn maybe in your 20s, later 20s. It depends on the person, but either way, Capricorn placements, Saturn placements tend to be late bloomers, but either way, you do get the gift of very defined, very beautiful bone structure. And as you do get older, you do get more youthful looking. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about Aquarius beauty because like I said, even though they're both influenced by Saturn, it manifests a little bit differently. So with Aquarius beauty, I will say the word that jumps out to me for you guys is ethereal. Aquarius rising, Saturn in the first, especially Aquarius sun, they have this very ethereal look about them. They almost look sort of like fairies, but in a very like, I'm thinking of like Florence and the Machine. I feel like she could have like some Aquarius. I feel like she could have some Aquarius traits about her where she just looks very ethereal. Aquarius beauty is very unique. It is very it's like it's never been seen before type of beauty. And I feel like because they have such an ethereal, unique look about them, they are very magnetic. Like there's something about them where you're just like, wow, I've never seen someone that looks like that. They look very attractive because of that. And I feel like Aquarius, when they embrace this uniqueness about them, they become even more beautiful. And I know it can be challenging, especially with like Aquarius, Saturn energy. Saturn energy tends to kind of make people doubt themselves quite a bit. So I feel like once Aquarius gets over that self-doubt and embraces their unique features, then they just become so much more magnetic, so much more beautiful to other people. It's almost like that person where it's like, there's just something about them you can't put your finger on, but they're just so attractive. And I feel like that's Aquarius beauty in a nutshell. And like I said, they do benefit from Saturn in a way because they are very slender, they might have very nice bone structure, very beautiful eyes too. I feel like Aquarius have such beautiful like eye shape. It's kind of round and kind of flared out, and just kind of mysterious too. But either way, Aquarius dominance or an Aquarius influenced person has this unique, very ethereal beauty about them. So comment down below your dominant planet and whether or not you resonate with the physical traits of that planet. If you guys want your own personal reading, go to my website, theastrokit.com. If you're new here, subscribe to my channel. If you learned something new, give this video a thumbs up, and I'll see you guys in my next one.